record this session, so far they can other classes can hear me because yesterday I totally forgot. um I got a lot of questions about last night's assignment, and a lot of people were freaking out, and so much chaos was going on. So, and I didn't get that many people turning it in versus in other homework assignments, I would get a bunch of people submitting them, and this one I got maybe like 2 kids or 3 kids in every class. So because of that, I want Ms. Gomez and I talked, and we decided that um, instead of the activity that we were going to do today or the homework assignment we were going to work on, we will work on last night's assignment. Ms. Gomez will go over some of those questions. She's going to go over some basic examples, and then you guys will have some time to hold on one sec. Uh, Allow themselves to just you know what, I don't trust this person.
Okay.
So um then you guys will be able to like ask her for recommendations for like, hey, can you work on this question or this question. She's not going to go over all of them, but she will go over, like three questions or something like that. um Pay attention to the information that she's giving you for each of those questions, because she's giving you guys advice that's going to help you guys not just in this assignment but moving forward. So a lot of what we're going to cover in this assignment you might see sprinkled into a quiz or a test later on in the future. Now that's really later on in the future, but if you guys pay attention to her and follow those steps as we go through other assignments, you won't even have to worry about your test or your quiz, because it's going to be super easy for you guys to do that. All right. So, um, again, just be mindful of what you guys are doing. Um, and um, for the 2 or 3 of you guys who have done your assignment for today, um, there is a homework 7. It's called the Mosaic Pixel. Um, and that one is going to be now extra credit. So for those of you guys who have already done today's assignment, you guys have 2 options. One, you can chill and relax for the day and just enjoy, a free period until next period, or you guys can work on this mosaic puzzle. It is just like yesterday's assignment. It's not that big of a deal. And um, you know what? I don't think this person is the right person either. Hold on one sec. Oh, one student is asking me for the code. Hold on one second.
Mm-hmm.
All right. But yeah, so you guys can have 2 options. Sorry, if someone was sending me messages going, my internet sucks. And guys, please let me know if your internet sucks. I already know that like half of you guys are probably having internet issues because of all this crazy wind. So trust me, I get it. But make sure that you guys are just letting either Miss Gomez or I know. But again, for those of you the 3 people that have finished everything, again, you guys can either stay here and work on that assignment or leave and work on that assignment later. Um, and then for everyone else, Ms. Gomez is going to go over, those assignments. Once she is done, you can either stay here in Zoom and work on that assignment, or you guys can leave and work on that assignment outside of class. Again, I already sent you guys a progress report. So you guys can just mark that as ready. Like, I would really, 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 really appreciate all of you guys doing that right now. There she is. So please make sure that you guys click on that. Okay, I'll do that. So again, please make sure that you guys click on marked as done on your progress report and turn that in. Today, I'm not sure when they're gonna give me a PBIS lesson. Oh, um, so um, so if they don't turn it, make sure you guys do your PBIS lesson as soon as I turn it, as soon as I get it. I'm still waiting on it. Actually, let me just double check and see if I got it already. It does not look like it so far. No, I haven't. So as soon as I get that, I will put it in. But you don't want to wait till tomorrow to do this PBIS lesson. Do the PBIS lesson as soon as you guys can. And then today is parent-teacher conferences from 4:30 to 6. Please remember that I do not give extra credit for that. And whenever it comes to turning it in, if you guys go to stream, so let me go into your guys' class. Under stream, it's going to be that very first announcement. If you click on that, it'll have every single teacher. All you have to do is just click on the teacher that you want, and it'll send you to their Zoom. If for whatever reason mine doesn't work, it's the same as the tutoring link. So just click on the computer in your homeroom and it'll send you there for mine. But we've only done a week's worth of material, so I don't know if you guys, your parents, want to come to here or not. It's on them. Next week it is your quiz. So you guys have a quiz on Thursday. No, it's not an April Fool's joke. You guys really do have a quiz. And then spring break, listen, because I'm gonna get like 5,000 people like asking me questions. Spring break is next week. It starts Friday, so there's no school Friday. And then I will see you back here in class April 12th, which is a Monday. So you only have 1 week off. So it's like 2 weekends and a week. And so it's like 10 days or something like that. So make sure that you guys only that you guys come back on the 12th. If you guys have any, would the test be difficult? No. If you guys have been doing everything, you'll have questions on slope. So you'll have, it's kind of like the pixel art. You'll
Yeah.
have like one table, one graph, and then like some other questions, and then on
Point.
Friday and then one for a point. So the same 3 things that we have on this homework assignment, you'll have it on that paper, on that quiz.
Mhm.
And then you have 2 questions that are going to be on our next like step when it comes to slope, and that we start on Friday. So we'll have Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. Oh no, Monday, Tuesday. So 3 days of that new activity, but it's super, super easy. So you guys shouldn't have anything to worry about. So, yeah.
So
So
if you're
Thursdays, go ahead.
yeah, so if you're having a hard time with this assignment that we're working on today, it would be a good time to ask questions in any part or section that confuses you.
Yes, definitely. So, um, other than this, I'm going to let you guys go. Again, even if you guys did do the pixel art, maybe it's a good idea to still stay and listen to Ms. Gomez as she's giving out the instructions, just because you might not have noticed something that she's going to talk about. And you guys can be working on the next activity as you're going along with everything else. So, it's no big deal to do it that way. But other than that, again, I'm gonna let you guys go. I'm gonna stop sharing. Ms. Gomez is gonna take over.
Okay.
And if you guys have any questions, again, do not forget to mark your progress report as done. You guys can do that right now, before you guys get started.
Okay. So yes, so today think of this as a review day. And it's a perfect timing, I think, for it because we've talked a lot about slope when we have graphs. And then this week, we're talking about slope when we have tables and points. So all of these things are coming together, and we can think of this day as more of a review and to help and support you guys in anything that you might be having a hard time with. So we are going to be working through your homework from yesterday, your pixel art. So I am going to grab that link and I'm going to put it in the chat for everyone to access, or if you are in Google Classroom, then that is homework assignment number 6. If you click on the section where it says copy, it actually takes you to the Google Sheets. So it should open up this way. Now, if some of you have a hard time with Google Sheets or just typing in here, you have the option of printing this piece out, this paper, the screenshot. Let me go back to it. So see, there's the copy and there's the screenshot. You can actually print this PDF out, or it's a screenshot. You can print it out and you can work on it on paper. Or the other option is to just grab a piece of paper and a pencil and to do your work on a separate piece of paper. And that is because when we have this one here, there's no space for us to type or no space for us to write anything. So it would be very helpful if you get a piece of paper or print out the screenshot. So I can show you guys how to work through these problems. I'll be using Classkick, just a blank sheet for me. I'll be using Classkick to work through a couple of examples. So notice, actually, I'll give you some more time to get there. Give me a thumbs up if you're ready and have that assignment open. Give me a clap if you need more time to get there. Okay. All right, thank you guys. Okay, so I have picked out a couple of example problems that we can work through. I have picked out a graph. And I also picked out a table. And also picked out a problem that has points. These are basically the 3 different types of examples that we've worked through already in our class and that you should be able to do. And if you can't, then we'll be practicing with them. So we're going to take a look at problem number 6. Okay, I'll write that one down. And then I'll do it as soon as we're done with these. Yeah, so, here's another thing. If you guys do have any questions on any other problems, then yes, you can write them in the chat and I will note them. But that is also another type of example you'd like to work through and I can do that. Okay, I wrote that one down. So what's interesting is that a lot of you ask questions on the graphs, and that could be because we did that last week and we're starting with points and tables again. So some of you might have forgotten those graphs, which is fine. So I'm hoping that going through number 6 helps you with your graphs and also makes you pay attention to another little detail. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with number 6. So anytime you have a graph, we're looking for our rise over our run. So your rise is basically our directions of us going up or going down to get from one point to another in our graph. Our run was going either left or right to get from one point to another in our graph. And that should give us a fraction as an answer. So anytime you look at a graph here, you want to pick 2 points and find your directions of rising and running from one point to another. But before we actually get there, I want you guys to pay attention to your axes. So when we look at the y-axis, I see that I have a number, let me get this here, a 10, a 20, a 30, and a 40. So anytime I'm making a jump or counting up or down, I'm skip counting by a different number. Oh, yeah, I would suggest you write it down if you have a piece of paper next to you. But at the end of this, I'm going to also let you take a screenshot so that you have these pictures saved somewhere as examples to help you work through the problems on your own. So obviously you can't write down the graph, but it would be helpful to write down rise over run, means we go up or down, left or right. Especially when we get to 10 and 19, you'll definitely want to write these down or take a screenshot. You have options. We give you options. Okay, so when you look at your y-axis here, you want to make sure you know what you're skip counting by anytime you make any jumps or movement up or down. So take a look at your numbers. We're going from 10 to 20 to 30 to 40. What is it that we're skip counting by here on this axis? Yes, good job. So when you pay attention to your y's, to your rise, you want to remember that we're going up by 10 each time. So anytime you make movements, you're counting by tens. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to pick 2 points on this line. Remember, when you pick points on your line, you want to make sure that they're perfect corners. What I mean by perfect corners is these here. All of these here that you see are perfect corners. We can easily find the x coordinate and y coordinate to these points, but none of these points are on your line. So you want to find perfect corners on your actual line. So when I'm looking at this line, this here is a perfect corner. And as I'm moving along, this here is also another perfect corner. Some of you guys, what I see some of you struggling with is when you try to pick points in between here. These points in between, we don't know what that number is. It's not going to be very helpful to work with those. So we're going to pick those perfect corners in our line, in the actual black line here. Okay, so now we want to take a look at our rise. If I'm going from one point to another, do I have to go up or do I have to go down? I thought that was. Okay, so I'm always used to reading a graph from the left side to the right side. So when I'm reading this graph, I'm thinking of this as my first point and this one as my second point. So I want to think about, how do I go from this first point to this second point? And I keep these directions in mind. How many units do I go up or down? Well, if I'm here and I want to get to point 2, I'm going to have to rise up. And when I count this rise, I count 1 jump. We just said that a jump here is worth 10 units. So if I'm making 1 jump, it's actually going up by 10, since we said our y's are going up by 10. So we can come over here and write that we went up 10. So give me a thumbs up if you're okay with that part. Give me a clap if that part confused you in any way. Okay. Perfect. Okay, so now we're ready to make a run. So you want to ask yourself, if I'm running, am I running left or right to go from this spot where I'm at right now? If I go to the left, I'm going further away from that point, so I don't want to go left. I'm going to have to go right. But before we do that, just how I notice my y-axes are going up, my y-coordinate, my y-points here, sorry, my scale is going up by 10, I need to look at what's happening to my x-axis. Here too, I go from 10 to 20 to 30, to 40, and to 50. So anytime I make a jump, a run, left or right, every time I'm jumping there to get from one point to another, I'm going up by 10. So also keep that in mind that your x's are going up by 10 every time. So if I go back to my graph here, from here, I just said I'm going right and I need to skip count. 10, 20, 30. Remember, each jump was worth 10. So that was 10, 20, 30. Every time I would skip count by 10. So here we get a rise of a run of 30. And that is because of your scale here. So now you have your rise over run. That's your slope. Yes. So now that you have your rise over run, you have a fraction, and you need to ask yourself, do I need to simplify this fraction? Simplifying means we can try to come in here and divide by a number. So I have a 10 and a 30. I could try to divide by 2 since both of these are even. And remember we said sometimes 2 always works, sometimes it doesn't. And I could try to divide by 2, but it's such a small number I'm dividing by, I'm probably going to have to simplify again. So when I see these two numbers, I know they both end in the 0. So that means I'm pretty sure I can divide both of these by 10. When I do that, I get 10 divided by 10 is 1. And 30 divided by 10 is 3. So the slope for this line is 1, 3. Now, I want you to be careful. Some of you could have said, well, isn't that just me? If I were to skip count by 1, this is going up 1, and then this is going up 1, 2, 3. So that isn't that just 1/3? Why did I have to do 10 over 30? That's just because in this case, when we're skip counting by 10s, it simplifies nicely. But if you have a graph that's not skip counting by 10s, that's skip counting by 2s, or skip counting by 5s, skip counting by 3s, it won't work out that way. So you always want to take a look at your scale here on the y-axis. Make sure you know, okay, every jump here is 10, or every jump here is 2, or every jump here is 4. Keep that in mind when you're looking at your rise and when you're looking at your run. So at this point, we can go back to your question number 6. Here's question number 6. I can go ahead and type in here m equals 1/3. So as soon as I click out of this, if it turns black, there we go. If it turns black, it should tell you it's right. If for some reason it was red for like a whole minute there. No, just it wasn't a whole minute, but for some reason it stayed red for a long time, and that's pretty common. We've seen some students have issues with this staying red, and they know they're right. They're like, I know I'm right. Why is it staying red? If it's staying red, you can always double check with us. Miss, is this correct? I got this answer for number 6, but it's showing up as red. Okay. If that happens, let us know. We'll tell you, hey, don't worry, your answer is correct. But you always want to check your spacing. And here I have no spaces at all. They're all next to each other. My M is lowercase, although we saw some students write a capital. Although we saw some students write a capital M, and it still counted it as right. See, so that would be okay. But normally, whenever we talk about slope, we always write that M as lowercase. So that would be your answer for number 6. It should be black, and then you should start seeing some of these pixels be colored in. All right, so again, this is all for you guys to help you guys review, to help you guys practice, to pick up on any tricks that will be helpful. If you have any questions on any more graphs, make sure you write them down and let me know at the end of this. I already have a question for number 4. When we're done with the table and the points, I'll come back to question number 4. All right. So give me a thumbs up if you're ready to move on to the table. Give me a clap if you need more time. Okay. Thank you, guys. So there's actually a reason why I picked this table to review with you guys. When I was looking at these tables over here, I said, what table might give them a hard time? And I thought maybe this table here that's not vertical up and down, that's kind of slanted going this way. Maybe they're not used to seeing a table that way. So I picked this table for you guys. Since we spent a lot of time working on these tables here yesterday, it is the exact same thing, actually. It's nothing different, just for some reason, your pairs look different to you guys, but don't worry. Okay, before I actually get into these tables, I want to make sure that you understand what are our pairs. For which one? Oh, yeah, you got it. You're right. Let me let you know. Okay, so for those of you that might have had a hard time with this table, your pairs are actually the X and the Y. So the top number with the bottom number, that is a pair. I want to make sure you understand that, because there are some students that are saying, well, if I pick this as my X, then I can pick this as my Y. See, here you're just mixing and matching at that point. And we can't mix and match. We have to keep the pair together. So if you decide that this is going to be your first X, this has to be your first Y. It has to be a pair. Okay, so this here is one pair. This here is another pair. This here is another pair. And this here is another pair. So notice how I put them together. I'm not mixing and matching, jumping around. So why is it important that I'm looking at these pairs? Because when we're finding the slope of a table, you use your formula, the slope formula. And the slope formula has us look at our differences between our points, between our values. We take y2, the second y, and subtract it by y1. And we take our second x and subtract it by our first x on the bottom of our fraction. So this is still a fraction, just like our fraction up here. We still are looking at our rise, but we can subtract the y's, and we are still looking at a run, but we can subtract our x's. So you can go in here and pick any ordered pair you'd like to work with. Well, for now, I'm going to pick this pair. The reason why I'm picking 1 and 1 is because it's so much easier to subtract 1 or add by 1. That's not hard at all. If you want to pick 9 and 33, go for it. But those are really big numbers. Well, 33 is a big number. I don't want to be subtracting big numbers and then maybe simplifying those fractions. See, 13 and 49, I don't want to have to pick those. So my next pair that I am going to pick is going to be 5 and 17. So as soon as you pick 2 points, you're ready to use your slope formula. All you would have to do is label these numbers. So remember, this is a pair, which means I'm going to go in here and label my pairs. This is my x coordinate. Since x is here, I'm going to say this is x1, my first x, which means this has to be my first y. They're a pair. So when I look at this point over here, it's my second point. So this will be my second x, x2, and this will be my second y, y2. So now we have our 2 ordered pairs. And all you have to do is plug them in to your formula. Use them inside of this formula that we have going over here. Before we do that, remember I tell you always start with your bar, your fraction bar, and your subtraction symbols in the center. These subtraction symbols come from here, from your formula. Very important that you keep them there. All right, so now that we have our fraction bar and we have our subtraction symbol in between these numbers, we're ready to pick our y2 and put it in the front. Have your y1 be written in the back. So when you look at this table, what number did I say is going to be my second y? Anybody, you can either unmute yourself or let me know in the chat. What number is my second y? My y2. Yes, thank you. 17. Correct. So that's why I put 17 there. 17 is my second y, has to go in the front. In the back, I need to put my first y. What is my first y? Yes, perfect. 1. And now you do the same, but with your x's. In the front, on the bottom of our fraction here, we should have our second x. What number did I say was my second x? Yes, perfect. And what number do I have here for my first x? Good job, you guys. And there you go. Your formula is now, you've replaced everything inside for your formula. And all you would have to do is your subtraction sentences on the top and your subtraction sentences on the bottom. So 17 minus 1, that is 16 over 5 minus 1, which is 4. So that's it. That's basically our slope. But you want to ask yourself, just like we did over here, can we simplify? So when I look at this fraction, 16 and 4, both of those definitely have a common factor. But when I see the difference between these, the bigger number here is on the top, which means maybe I can get away with actually dividing these nicely. So when you have a fraction like this, you can also take that top number, the numerator, and you can divide it by the denominator, the bottom number. maybe it might work out nicely. If we get a decimal, then no, we don't want to write that decimal. Then we would have to try and see if we can simplify it anymore. But in this case, just by looking at those two numbers, I know that 16 can definitely be divided by 4. 16 divided by 4, meaning 4 equals 4. Yes, good question. I like that. This is the same question I was asked in first period. That's a really good question. So some of you might think, well, you're always picking the first 2 points, the first 2 pairs. Do I always have to pick the first 2 pairs? No, you don't always have to pick the first 2 pairs. And let me go back to your homework. See, when I look at number 5, I would not pick the first 2 pairs. I would pick the pair that has the 0 and the -7. Why would I pick 0? Because again, it's easy to subtract or add by 0. And then I would most likely pick this -1 and -5. Why? Because again, that's just the 1 and it might be really easy to work with ones. So do you always have to pick the first 2 pairs? No. You don't have to pick the first 2 pairs. If I wanted to take up more of your time, I would give you another example and show you how if I picked this one as my first pair and I picked this one here as my second pair, which again, they're bigger numbers. But what's so interesting is that we still get the same slope of 4 if I do these. If I take 49, subtract by 33, and then if I take 13 and subtract it by 9, and then divide both of those, I still get 4. So when choosing your pairs, you don't always have to choose the first 2, as long as you keep your pairs together like this. Let me go back to number 5 really quickly. So for number 5, when you're choosing pairs, I would choose this one here. Why am I going this way? Because that's your X and your Y paired side by side that way. And I would most likely pick this one here. Do you have to pick those 2? No. You could have picked the first 2. You could have picked the last 2. It's up to you. But that's a very good question. Does that help? Okay. All right. So our answer here for our slope was 4. Again, how did we get that? 16 divided by 4. So we can come over here. That was question number 6. If you double click on that box, you should type in m equals 4. And it turned black, so I know that's correct. No spaces in between. All right. So again, I'm going to let you guys take a screenshot of this, but if you'd prefer to take it now, that's okay. You can take it now. I'm going to give you a screenshot of once all of these are all completed here. All right. So the next question I picked for you guys is question number 19. I picked question 19 because this is going to give you one of those different types of slopes. Remember, we had positive slopes, negative slopes, zero slopes, defined slopes. This number 19 is one of those special slopes, not positive, not negative. It's either 0 or undefined. And you haven't really seen a lot of these examples yet. And I wanted to make sure you had these examples. And also because I had some students ask me a lot of, What happens when I have a lot of negatives in the formula? What does that mean? So I want to show you what happens when you have a couple more negatives than in the other situations. Okay, so just like our table here, if you're ever working with just 2 points and you need to find the slope, we also have to use the slope formula. So when you have points, you're going to need to write your slope formula. And our slope formula is y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. You don't have to color coordinate. You don't have to really worry about that, but I sense that it helps a lot of students to remember these things a lot easier. They'll think of red as subtracting y's, and then you'll think of green as subtracting your x's. I find that it has helped some of you. Okay, so very similar to your table, we had to label our first ordered pair as x1 and y1, and then we ordered our second ordered pair as x2 and y2. We want to do the exact same thing, but you get to pick here which is your first point, which is your second point. I'm just a creature of habit, and I just say, or like my mind sees that's first, so I'm just going to say this is my first point, x1, y1. I don't complicate it for myself. The second point, well, that's my second point, so I say x2, y2. See, since they're together, they have to be part of the same pair, the part of the same number, x1, y1. Second pair, the 2's. Follow those. And now that you have your x1 and y1 labeled, your x2 and y2 labeled, all you have to do is use your formula. And if you use your formula correctly, that means you write your, bar first and your subtraction in the center. This is going to be a perfect example of why we start with that subtraction in the center, and you'll see it in a bit. All right, so I'll get a little help from you guys. I've labeled them for you, but if we use our slope formula correctly, what is our y2? What number should we put here in the front? Our second y. Yeah, 7. So we need to write 7 here in the front. That is our second y. In the back of our subtraction sign, we need our first y. What is our first y? Yes, thank you. Perfect. Do the same with your x's. What is our first x? Our second x, x2. Thank you, -5. And in the very back here, what is our x1? Yes, -5. Now, watch what I'm doing here. This negative here is from my formula. This blue negative is from the actual number x1 here. So that negative in front of that 5 has to also be a negative in front of that 5, but it's completely different from this one here. So that's why we encourage you guys to always start with the bar and the 2 negative symbols in the middle so that you don't get it confused with this one that belongs to this number. So we have a double negative here. So when we have a double negative, you want to make sure you pay attention to those things. A double negative, anytime you have a negative, a minus a negative, that should turn into addition, positive. So normally we can go in here and just write the positive over like that. I'm writing it underneath because I want to make sure you have these notes that when you have a double negative, that should turn into a positive. So instead of subtracting this here, it should be addition. So keep that in mind. All right. Now that we have our subtraction sentences, all you would have to do is subtract. 7 minus 1 is 6. All over. We had negative 5, and now it's plus 5. So you want to think of this as negative 5 plus 5. Different signs, a negative and a positive means we subtract. So 5 minus 5 is just 0. So I wanted to give you this example because we have a 0 as our denominator. So anytime you have a 0 in your denominator, we say this is undefined. This is an undefined slope. So how do we type that in to our answer? You go over to question number 19 here, and you should type in m equals undefined. Oops, I didn't spell it right. There we go. And it should turn black. So double check your spelling in the word undefined. If you're getting red, make sure you're spelling it correctly. Even if you put a capital M, it doesn't affect it.
I think I figured out why it's turning red. You have to hit enter at the end or click out of it. That might, because I've gone back into other kids' papers or assignments, and when I hit enter, then it turned red and it turned black. But if I left it like that, it, I don't know. But yeah,
I'll try it in another one.
Yeah, I have no idea. But yeah, I've noticed that as long as I hit enter, it's turned it black. So
okay.
But that's what after they had it red.
Yeah.
And remember, guys, some of you guys are not are leaving certain questions as red. If it's red, other than the undefined one, that one we know for sure, like there's a bug on it, but all the other ones should not be red. Make sure that if it is red, try it again or ask for help for that one. All right?
Yes. Okay. So why do we have an undefined slope? Because 0 is in the denominator, in the bottom. So 0 in the bottom means we have an undefined slope. Let me make sure you have that. And then I will. So again, it doesn't matter what number you have here. As long as we have that 0, we get an undefined slope. Yes, I am going to zoom out now. Some of you are asking for a screenshot. I forget that if I zoom out that much, you can't see it. Yeah, that's too much. So I'll let you take a screenshot of the top 2 first. Oh, before you do that, I want to make sure that you have an example here. When you're typing in your answer, make sure you put in m equals 1/3. When you type in your answer, that should be turning black to give you the correct one. Let me type in your answer here, m equals 4. Okay, go ahead and take a screenshot of the graph and the table example. And I'll let you take a screenshot of the point example. Oh, except here, let me type it out for you. It should say m equals undefined. So remember, I was going to give you one more example, but if you feel like you get it, then you're free to just keep working at your own pace. I am still going over a request I got for number 4. So that is something that, if that is something that you struggled with, then stick around. But if you feel like you're understanding this whole process of finding the slope of a graph, finding the slope of a table, finding the slope of points, then you're more than, oh, good question. Very different. So let me write that here. That's actually a very good example that you guys can keep here. So I got a question saying, if we have 0 over 6, is that the same as 6 over 0? Those are different because this is saying 0 divided by 6, which is just 0. You could ask yourself, 6 times something gives me 0. Well, 6 times 0 will be 0. So this is what we call a zero slope. When your 0 is on top, your numerator. This here, we're saying 6 divided by 0. Very different. We're thinking, so 0 times something must give me 6. There's no way, there's no possible way 0 times anything is ever going to be 6, which is why I say this is undefined. Very good question. So the order does matter in this. So different slopes. So if you want, you can take a screenshot of that too, to have as an example. Okay, so I got a request for number 4. I'm going to go ahead and go over number 4. But again, you're more than welcome to work at your own pace if you feel like you got the graphs. If you are working through something and you are getting an answer that's turning red, let us know in the chat. We'll try to help you out as we work through these. So give me a thumbs up if you got your screenshots, and if you're ready to move on. I'm going to go ahead and get oh, I see why that happened. You got to be careful with your double negatives on that one. So I have a question on number 17. 17 is going to be a very similar case to what's going on down here. That's similar to this, but with different numbers. So if you fix your denominator, that should help you out. Okay, I am going to go ahead and work through question, graph number 4. So graph number 4. Okay, so this is another example of a graph. When you have a graph, you need to pick 2 points. But if you look at that and you remember our different types of slope, think about writing your word slope. You really don't even have to do work for this one if you didn't want to, but we can. But if I write the word slope, I can't even really write the word slope. I'd have to write it something like this. Spider-Man. going up buildings. Do you guys remember what type of slope that is? So if you can look at that and determine what kind of slope that is, you're basically done. This is one of those special slopes. Could be, yeah, good job. So you don't have to do work, but I'm still going to show you how to do the work if you can't identify it correctly. So when you write that word slope, going up and down, we should know it's one of those special slopes, but you're going to pick 2 points on here. Again, your perfect points are the corners there on your actual line. So I see one here and I see one there. Yes, you're correct. So we still want to find our rise over our run. Rise is how much you go up or down. Run is how much you go left to right. So right away, I can tell, hey, this does have a rise, because if I go from one point to the next, doesn't matter what point you pick as your first point. Let's say I pick the top one as my first point and the second one as my, sorry, the one on the bottom as my second point. I can check my rise from point 1 to get to point 2. I'm going to come down 1. So I'm going to write down 1, -1. Over my run, do I have to go left or right to get to point 2? But I actually am already at point 2. I went down 1 and I'm already at point 2. So I didn't go left or right, that's 0. What happens when we have a 0 in our denominator? That is undefined. So this is an undefined slope, so I can go in there and write m equals undefined. So that's what's cool about your graphs, is you don't always have to do work for your graphs when we have these up and down lines or your side to side lines, your horizontal lines. I don't want to give it away. I don't want to give out a spoiler. So this line up and down and the line side to side, those are your special lines. So I'm going to zoom out. Going to let you guys take a screenshot of what an undefined line looks like. When we have that 0 on the bottom, right away, you should tell yourself that is an undefined slope. So I can go on over to my worksheet, double click on that and write in m equals undefined. And this time I'm going to hit enter and see what happens. Oh yeah, I did it. So I would recommend hitting enter after you're done typing it in, or clicking out of it completely. Oh, it's looking pretty. So is it that I'm going to go back here, let you guys take a screenshot of that one. That is it basically. If you guys have any more questions or examples you would like to work through, we can always help you out in the chat, or we can always go through one here. But you can use these last 15 minutes to finish this assignment. You have only a couple questions left, but before you actually go, don't forget your exit ticket.
Let me throw that out there too.
Okay. I feel like
man, you guys like run as soon as we say like, oh, you guys can leave, and you're like,
yeah. I'm like, well, that